So a study was just published in the journal Health Affairs about the positive impacts that states saw by implementing, requiring people to wear masks when they're out in public or going into these different businesses. So let's check this out. State requirements to wear face masks in public may have prevented hundreds of thousands of COVID-19 cases in the US, according to a study published in Health Affairs. Researchers found that daily COVID-19 growth rate significantly declined after Washington, D.C. and 15 states issued mask mandates between April 8th and May 15th. States that only recommended the use of masks in public did not see comparable declines. Researchers estimate the mask mandates may have prevented an additional 230 to 450,000 COVID-19 cases by May 22nd. The findings are based on statistical modeling using daily county level data of confirmed COVID-19 cases between March 25th and May 22nd. Requiring Americans to wear face masks in public may help reduce the virus's spread, especially if there's a major resurgence this fall. We're going through a major resurgence right now. So 15 states and Washington, D.C. mandated people having to wear masks in public. Those 15 states are estimated to prevent an additional 230 to 450,000 cases of people contracting COVID-19. You extrapolate that out even at the low end, let's say, 300,000. That's potentially, if these other states had implemented that, it could have been upwards of 1 million cases in the United States we did not have if we actually had, a functioning state governments across the U.S. And then, obviously the problems with with Trump on the federal level, not using the Defense Production Act nearly enough, gutting all the pandemic experts at the CDC, not wearing masks in public, downplaying that. That obviously played a role, and obviously all these state governments who didn't mandate wearing masks in public were also, guilty of increasing, the cases in their states and more people dying. It's sick. And again, the United States has the most cases of COVID-19 in the world by a long shot. So a little over about 8.4 million cases. The US has over a fourth of the cases in the world, as well as by far and away the most deaths. And, this number is probably quite a bit lower than it actually is. So, and then, we have a pretty high, honestly, deaths per 1 million population. We have pretty low testing rate compared to some of these other countries, compared to, Russia, compared to the UK, compared to Spain, about the same as Italy. The US has just handled this pandemic in such a horrible fashion. It just really underlines how the United States is in fact a failed state. No type of, Medicare for all during a fucking pandemic. No UBI, no rent mortgage cancellations, no abolishing student loan debt. None of these things happen, and then as a result, a lot of people are having to go back to work or face starving, and then they're obviously putting their lives at risk by having to work in these conditions. And it's kind of been the goal of the federal government and these more conservative leaning state governments to basically do as little as they can to make life so difficult and hard for people by not extending the social safety net, not doing any of those policies I talked about earlier, just making it so bad for people that they're forced to go back to work in a pandemic. It's disgusting. It's sick. And for fuck's sake, just by requiring a mask, we could have potentially limited or decreased the amount of COVID-19 cases in the US by close to 1 million. For fuck's sake. I mean, actually, I mean, it would have been over a million, including these 15 states. Again, it's completely, complete and utter failure on the part of, a majority of state governments across the United States right now with regards to this. And um, we see the cases spiking in a lot of states right now. I saw it's like Arizona, Florida, Oregon, Texas, I think even California. It was like 9 states in the last day have reached like weekly high for their averages of people getting contracting COVID. So this shit never really went away. There was never, a wave and then a dip. It was always we're pretty fucking high up there now. And again, a lot of this could have been prevented, mandating the mask, giving people UBI so they're not forced to go out and work during a pandemic in these, horrible, potentially life-threatening conditions, rent and mortgage freezes, Medicare for all, etc. Could We could have done a much better job, and frankly, I don't know how the U.S. could have done any worse. It's basically here's a $1,200 check. What was it, like 3 months ago? Fuck off. That was the U.S.'s response, basically. Peace, much love.